I want to start today with a question. It feels a little bit like a magic trick, a thought experiment, really.
Okay, I'm listening.
Can you take a story you might know back to front when you grew up with, and completely change the experience of it just by switching how it gets into your brain?
That is a heavy question to open with.
Yeah.
You're asking if the medium actually alters the message.
I am, because, we usually think a story is the story. The words are the words, right?
Right.
But the source we're looking at today argues something totally different happens when you go from the page to the ear.
Okay.
It says that if you take a book and turn it into audio, it shouldn't just be a book being read aloud. If it's done right, it goes through a kind of chemical change. The analysis calls this the alchemical resonance.
The alchemical resonance, that's a fantastic title.
Isn't it?
It sounds scientific and mystical at the same time, which is actually perfect for the subject.
It really is. So today we're looking at this detailed analysis, the alchemical resonance, a masterclass in Potter narration. And we're diving deep specifically into the audiobook of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone.
And I think right off the bat, we need to set the mission for this deep dive.
Yeah.
Because I know what some people might be thinking. I know the plot of Harry Potter. I've seen the movies. I bought the scarf.
Exactly. We aren't here to, recap the plot. If you don't know Harry's a wizard by now, we probably can't help you.
We're here to unpack why this specific audio production is rated, in our source, as a 9.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
That's a staggeringly high score.
It's huge.
We want to understand why the analysis calls it a masterclass, and, maybe most interestingly, why it calls the audiobook an emotional gateway.
An emotional gateway. That's a big claim. And I have to admit, I'm the guy who gets excited about revisiting this world. The words magic and wonder, they just get me every time. But you're usually the skeptic. Does the source convince you this is more than just, nostalgia?
It makes a very compelling case. What's fascinating here, and what I want to focus on, are the technical and the thematic things that create that gateway.
Okay.
Because magic in storytelling isn't just waving a wand. It's a very specific blend of writing mechanics and performance choices.
Okay, let's unpack this. The source starts by setting the stage with the core narrative. And even if you know it, hearing it described this way is interesting.
How so?
It frames the story as belonging to Harry, an unwanted orphan living a miserable life.
Which is a very stark starting point. It's classic Dickensian misery.
It is. But then the pivot is he discovers he belongs to this hidden world. And the source makes a really specific point about how the audiobook handles this transition. It talks about the atmosphere of Hogwarts.
And this is where we start to see that alchemical resonance. In the text, Hogwarts is the setting. It's a place with walls and ceilings and ghosts. You visualize it.
Right.
But the source argues that in the audiobook, it becomes something else. It describes the atmosphere as warm, mysterious, and immersive.
Warm and mysterious. Those two things don't always go together.
No, they don't.
Usually, mystery is cold, right? It's a foggy street in London. It's frightening.
That's a great observation. And I think that's the key here. The source suggests the audio format creates a sensation of walking through the halls with the students. It's spatial.
It puts you inside it.
Because the sound surrounds you. It's not just describing the castle. It's placing you inside it. So the warmth comes from the safety of the narration, even when the mystery is scary.
And that leads to one of my favorite observations from this analysis.
Go on.
The source says the audiobook format lets the story unfold like a bedtime legend.
That phrase jumped out at me too. A bedtime legend.
It's so evocative. It implies this level of comfort, right? It's not just consuming content. It's being told a story.
Yes.
Yeah.
It connects to the oral tradition of storytelling.
Yeah.
This is something we often forget. Before we wrote novels, we told legends around fires. That's how humans consume stories for 99% of our history. And the source notes that this format pulls the listener deeper with every chapter. It's hypnotic in a way that just reading text sometimes isn't.
How so? What's the difference there?
Well, when you read, you're actively decoding symbols. You're doing work. Your eyes scan, your brain translates.
You're processing.
But when you listen to a bedtime legend, you're receiving. You sort of surrender to the story.
You're letting the story happen to you.
Exactly. But, and this is a big but, you can't just read the phone book and have it feel like a legend. The foundation matters.
Of course.
The source argues that the bedrock of this experience is J.K. Rowling's very specific writing style. The analysis breaks it down into a blend of 3 distinct elements.
Okay, lay them on me. What are the 3 ingredients in this potion?
So the first is everyday struggles. The second is magical imagination, and the third is moral lessons.
Everyday struggles, magical imagination, moral lessons. Got it.
And the argument is that Rowling blends these seamlessly. Think about it. If you only had magical imagination, it'd be too abstract. It would be high fantasy where no one acts like a human being.
Right, it becomes really hard to relate to.
Exactly.
Right.
And if you only had everyday struggles, it would just be a kitchen sink drama about a sad kid in a cupboard.
Yeah.
But by blending them, taking the sad kid and giving him magic, but keeping the sadness real, you get a hook. And then you underline it all with those moral lessons.
And the audiobook enhances that blend.
Significantly.
Yeah.
The source says the audio format doesn't just convey the information of that blend, it enhances the feeling of belonging and self-discovery at the heart of the book.
It's the difference between reading a menu and eating the meal.
Yes.
The text gives you the ingredients, the audio gives you the flavor.
Precisely. And that takes us from the what of the story to the how of the delivery. Because you can have the best story in the world, Pulitzer Prize-winning writing,
Right.
but if the person reading it to you is monotone, that magic dies instantly.
Oh, absolutely. We've all sat through a lecture or a presentation where the material is interesting, but the delivery just put us to sleep. It's painful.
It kills the resonance.
Yeah.
But here, the source makes a massive distinction. It says this audiobook does not feel read aloud. It feels performed.
That is a critical distinction. Read aloud versus performed.
It's huge.
To me, that sounds a little like marketing speak at first, but the analysis actually breaks down why it feels performed.
It comes down to character distinctiveness.
And the source lists these incredible character vocalizations. I just want to run through these because reading the descriptions makes you realize how much work the narrator is doing.
Let's do it.
First up, obviously, Harry, the source says the narrator makes him sound innocent yet brave.
That is a very difficult balance to strike as an actor.
Right. Innocence usually implies softness, maybe a higher pitch, bit of hesitation. Bravery implies steel, firmness. To capture both in one voice without it sounding, schizophrenic is impressive.
It creates immediate empathy. You want to protect the innocence, but you root for the bravery.
It aligns you with him instantly.
Yes.
Then we have Hagrid. The description here is warm and lovable.
Which fits that bedtime legend vibe perfectly. Hagrid is the comfort character. But think about the challenge there. Hagrid's a giant. The temptation for an actor would be to make him sound gruff or slow or scary.
Like a monster.
Exactly. But the performance uses the bass notes for the size, but the tone for the warmth. It tells you this thing is big, but it's safe.
Okay, then we pivot to Hermione. The source describes her portrayal as sharp and confident.
Sharp is a great word there. It implies intelligence, speed. In the first book, Hermione can actually be a bit annoying on the page. She's a know-it-all.
She is absolutely annoying in the text.
But the vocal performance softens that.
Right.
It makes it about confidence and competence, not just arrogance. The sharpness becomes a tool you want on your side, not an annoyance you want to go away.
And finally, the counterweight to all this warmth, Snape. The source says his voice carries tension and mystery.
Tension. That's fascinating, not just scary or mean.
What's the difference?
Tension implies something is being held back. A coiled spring. If a villain just shouts, that's not tension, that's just volume. Snape's voice, according to the analysis, uses silence and pacing to make you feel like he could explode, but he isn't. That's much scarier.
It really shows the range, doesn't it? From warm and lovable to tension and mystery, it's a full sonic landscape.
And this is where the expert analysis in the source really shines. It asks, why does this matter? Is it just about doing funny voices to keep kids entertained? And the answer is a definitive no.
So what does the performance actually achieve beyond entertainment?
The source notes that the dialogue flows naturally, which is hard when you're one person talking to yourself.
Yeah.
But more importantly, it says the comedic moments land perfectly and emotional scenes hit harder because of the vocal delivery.
Hit harder. That's the key phrase.
It is. Think about the mechanics of reading. When you read a sad scene, your internal monologue decides how sad it sounds. You can subconsciously speed up to get through the pain. You control the distance.
You can protect yourself.
Exactly. But when a skilled actor performs it, they control the pacing. They control the breath. They can force a pause that makes you sit in the emotion. They control the impact.
That goes right back to the immersion we talked about. The source mentions this performance style creates that sense of walking through the halls. You aren't just observing, you are in the room where it's happening.
It creates a 3D environment out of sound. It's audio engineering of the imagination.
So we have this incredible world and we have this masterclass performance. The next logical question is, how are we supposed to consume this? Because the source gives specific recommendations on the listening experience.
It does. And this is where we get into the lifestyle aspect of the audiobook. It explicitly recommends this for quiet evenings, long drives, or relaxing sessions.
Quiet evenings and long drive. It sounds very cozy, like something you do to decompress.
It is. It's framed as a solitary, intimate experience. But what I find interesting is the comment on pacing. The source describes it as comfortable and engaging, which allows for, and this is a crucial phrase, binge listening without fatigue.
Binge listening without fatigue. That is the holy grail of media consumption.
It really is. Usually if you listen to something dense for 3 hours, like a history podcast or a complex thriller, your brain gets tired.
Yeah, cognitive load kicks
You
in.
start zoning out.
Mm.
But the source argues that because of this balance, this comfortable pacing, you can just keep going. The blend of the writing and the smooth performance, it just moves the friction.
It also mentions the tone balance. It says magical moments feel magical, but darker undertones are subtle but effective.
That word subtle is doing a lot of heavy lifting there.
How so?
Well, Philosopher's Stone is technically a children's book, but it deals with death, loss, murder, evil. It's not all candy beans. If the darker undertones were too heavy, if the narrator went full horror movie, it would lose that warm atmosphere. It would stop being a bedtime legend and start being a nightmare.
Good point.
But if they were non-existent, there would be no stakes. The audio has to thread that needle, keeping the darkness subtle so it doesn't overwhelm the magic, but effective enough that we care.
That is a really nuanced point. It's managing the emotional temperature of the listener.
Exactly.
So who is this for? The source casts a pretty wide net here.
It does. First-time fans, obviously.
Mhm.
But it also explicitly mentions adults revisiting childhood magic and parents listening with their kids.
Adults revisiting childhood magic. I think that's a huge demographic.
It is. Nostalgia is a powerful drug.
And the source adds one more category that I think is interesting. Anyone seeking comfort storytelling.
Comfort storytelling. We hear about comfort food all the time.
No.
This is the audio equivalent.
It's media that doesn't demand anything from you but gives you warmth back.
Low stress, high warmth engagement. And the source clarifies this is specifically for audiobook lovers who enjoy character-driven narration rather than just dry recitation.
So if you want a textbook read to you, this isn't it. But if you want a performance, this is the gold standard.
Precisely.
Now, I want to pivot to the so what of this deep dive, because the source poses a question. Why does this still matter decades later? The
Yeah.
book's been out for a long time. Why are we still analyzing the audiobook in 2026?
And this is where we get into the timeless themes. The source identifies 4 key lessons, and it argues these lessons are the reason for its longevity. But it goes a step further and argues the audio makes these themes land differently.
Okay, let's run through the big 4. What's number 1?
Number 1, kindness beats power. Such a classic theme, but hearing it put that simply is powerful. How does audio change that?
Well, in text, that's a philosophy. Kindness beats power. Do you agree with it intellectually?
But in the audio format, you hear the kindness in Hagrid's voice. You hear the coldness of the power-hungry characters. It becomes a sensory contrast. The kindness has a sound.
That makes sense. It's visceral. What's number 2?
Choices define who we become.
Oh, that's a big one. Not about what you're born as, it's what you choose to do.
And think about that in the context of Harry's innocent yet brave voice. We hear him making those choices in real time. We hear the hesitation and then the resolve. The choice isn't just a plot point. It's a vocal shift.
Number 3.
Friendship is strength.
I feel like that's the backbone of the whole series.
It is. And again, the source highlights the interplay of voices. You have the warm Hagrid, the sharp Hermione, the innocent Harry. When they're together in a scene, you hear the ensemble. You hear the strength of the group through the literal harmony of their dialogue.
And the final one.
Courage often starts small.
Courage often starts small. I like that. It's not about being a superhero instantly.
No, it's about the little moments. And this connects back to the everyday struggles element. The courage to stand up to a bully or face a difficult teacher. These are small, sonic moments. A stammer that stops. A whisper that becomes a shout. The audio captures the growth of courage.
Now here's where it gets really interesting for me. The expert in our source makes a specific argument about the audio difference with these themes.
Yes. The source argues that listening to these themes rather than reading them makes them feel more personal and emotional.
Why do you think that is? Is there a biological reason?
I think it goes back to the bedtime legend. When you read, you're analyzing. You're using the prefrontal cortex to decode. When you listen to a human voice, you're feeling.
Right.
The human voice carries emotional data that text just can't. A quiver in a voice, a pause, a change in volume. These trigger our empathy centers instantly.
So when the lesson is kindness beats power, and you hear the kindness, it bypasses your logical brain.
It goes straight to your heart. The source is saying this format makes the moral lessons intimate. They aren't abstract rules in a book. They're personal experiences shared by a voice.
It's the difference between reading a quote about love and hearing someone say, "I love you."
Exactly. The data is the same, but the resonance is completely different.
And that leads us to the final verdict. The source does not hold back here.
No, it doesn't. A rating of 9.5 out of 10. That's rarefied air.
It calls it a masterclass in storytelling and narration.
And it creates a definitive tagline for the review. It proves that some stories are meant to be heard, not just read.
Meant to be heard.
Yeah.
That implies the text was just a blueprint and the audio is the building.
In the case of this specific production, the source seems to believe exactly that the story only reaches its full potential, its full alchemical resonance, when it's performed.
So to summarize what we've unpacked today, we have a story that blends everyday struggles with magic to ground us. We have a performance that transforms text into a bedtime legend through character-driven acting. And we have an experience that bypasses our logic to make timeless moral themes feel personal and emotional.
That's the recipe. That's why it's not just a book on tape, it's an emotional gateway.
But before we let you go, we have to issue the warning that comes directly from our source.
Yes, a very important consumer warning.
The source states, once you start listening, it's nearly impossible not to continue the entire series.
You are opening a door that is very hard to close. The immersion is addictive.
And considering there are 7 books, that is a serious time commitment.
It's hundreds of hours, so if you have a long commute, you're set. If you have a job where you need to focus, maybe proceed with caution.
Exactly. Now, as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a thought that builds on what we discussed regarding the audio difference.
Out for it.
The source mentioned that listening makes moral lessons like kindness and courage feel more personal because it bypasses the analytical brain and hits the emotional center.
Right, the direct line to empathy.
So here's the question for you, the listener. If the audio format bypasses our analysis and goes straight to emotion, does the format in which we consume a story actually change our moral understanding of it?
That is a fascinating thing to consider.
Think about it. Do we judge characters differently when we hear their voices? If a villain sounds charming, are we more likely to forgive them than if we just read their cold words on a page?
Yeah, or if a hero sounds annoying, do we judge their actions more harshly?
It suggests our morality might be influenced by our ears more than we think. Does the medium determine who we root for?
Something to think about the next time you hit play.
Thanks for diving deep with us today.
See you next time.